Seriously, these prawns are so delicious. They're super quick to make. You get the spice on there and that wonderful butter sauce. It just complements it so
Spencer,
well.
I love getting those moments when I do get a chance to speak with you. I remember we had a chance to talk before about the Christmas special you did a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about, the was it fish on a dish or dish on a fish?
Fish on a dish.
There you go. We've talked about that too. So getting a chance to talk to you about one of my favorite times, and we're talking about grilling, especially because it's summertime.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy we can talk about this, my friend. For you, though, as a chef, how does it feel, man, being able to Christmas, fish, grilling, all these things that you get to help provide us to have great meals and having great fun?
Yeah, I fell in love with cooking at a super early age, and I did chef training in high school, and right out of high school went to culinary school and worked through the ranks at the best kitchens in Vancouver. And after 17 years of that, to take all of those experiences and get to share it with everybody and inspire people and put some passion behind it, it means the world to me. So whether it's fish, whether it's barbecue, whether I do desserts, if it involves food, I'm your guy to get you inspired to get into the kitchen.
Well, look, let's talk about, as we just said, one of my favorites growing up, whether I'm watching those TV shows where you got mom and dad, having the grill and the kids are waiting for the hamburger, or watching the Flintstones with their Bronto burgers being barbecued. My friend, what is going on with this show, and how are you going to give us some great techniques, especially with the long weekend coming up very soon, that we can grill like a master?
Yeah, this is a great time of year. This is where everyone's getting their barbecues out and cleaning off their patios and getting their barbecue equipment ready. The weather's perfect for it, especially as Canadians. These 100+ days are just absolutely fantastic for grilling. And I'm going to teach you how to do it like a pro. So we cover everything. We cover sauces, marinades, rubs, homemade barbecue sauces. We do high heat grilling, low and slow cooking, indirect cooking, smoking, fish, vegetables, and even desserts. So I use the barbecue as a beautiful outdoor heat source to cook everything and anything under the sun, and then, obviously getting that good char, smoky flavor that is so distinct when you're barbecuing.
Are there rules? I remember growing up, I felt like there were rules. You only had maybe hamburgers, steak, hot dogs. But these days now, especially because a lot of people are either vegetarian, vegan, or whatever else, the rules are out the door. Am I correct?
They are. Like in What's on the Grill, I rotisserie whole cauliflower, and it is incredible because it's such a humble veg. It's really light in flavor, but it's got good texture, and they're like sponges, so they'll take on big, bold flavors. And then if you rotisserie them, they get really nice and charred, and they get that smoky flavor. So whether you're vegetarian or you're no starch or you're vegan, there's so many different options to do on the barbecue.
But what about guys like, and I have to throw myself in there, like me, who do want to be a chef master? But let's face it, the only thing we end up with once the meat goes on or whatever is on the grill ends up turning out to be charcoal. We might as well use that to help make out the next meal. How do you help guys like us that just burn everything, including our eyebrows?
You know what? Indirect cooking is great. So keep one side of your barbecue on full whack, and then keep the other half off. So if you're doing like a nice big steak, you can get some really good char marks and get that crust, get that caramelization, and then move it off to the side with no heat and close the barbecue, and it works like an oven. It'll slow cook, and that's a great tip for a steak, or even like chicken thighs if it's got the skin on it. Don't cook it 100% time over massive, full, roaring, high heat. Get your marks, get your flavor, get your char, and then move it over, and then just let the barbecue work like a slow oven and have it cooked until your preferred doneness.
Are you going to be able to also show us, too, how to prepare before we even get to our barbecue? Because I think a lot of guys think they just let me thaw this out and just throw it on there on the
and that's one thing not to do. Like if you're going to barbecue, maybe plan it out a little bit. Like I like to pull the meats out, get them at room temperature before I cook them. And marinades and sauces are great. If you come home from work on a Thursday and you're going to be doing some grilling on the weekend, open up your steaks, put a good rub on it, put a good marinade, use a plastic bag, get it in the fridge, And then the next day when you come home, you pull that out, and now all the flavor's there. All the flavor's done for you. All you have to do is just, have a nice cold beverage and do some grilling.
Have techniques changed from, say, when I was growing up watching my dad barbecuing to now? Like, for example, one of the things I remember people loved to do was poking their meats. I understand these days, now you realize, no, that's a big mistake. Like, what are the misconceptions growing up that we thought we should do that really now we've learned we shouldn't be doing that, and hopefully we'll be seeing this on your show too.
Yeah, you will, and it's one beautiful word, and it's called patience. Especially for like a nice steak or like a ribeye, your tendency is to get that steak on there and then start messing with it. You want to flip it and turn it, make sure it's not sticking and turn and flipping. Don't. Have a little patience. Let the barbecue do the work. Put the steak on. Steak should be flipped once. Get some nice char marks, maybe quarter turn it to get those beautiful diamond marks. Flip it again, finish the cooking process. And, thermometers and science don't lie. If you're not comfortable with it, if you don't want to poke and prod and like cutting into it to see where you're at, use a thermometer. If you like your meats, medium rare, that's around 130, 135. Another great tip is to take it off just before that temperature and let the meat rest. There's a thing called carryover cooking. So if you take the meat off at like 125, 127, and then you let it rest for 10 minutes, that meat is still piping hot. The juices are still going crazy inside of it, and it will carry over. It'll get to that perfect doneness, and then you can eat it. When you eat it, it's retained all its juices. It's succulent. You don't eat your steak and then at the end of it have 2 ounces of juice in the bottom of your plate that should be in the meat. So take your meat out, rest it. Don't play with it too much, and when it's done cooking, don't touch it for 10 minutes, and then devour.
Are there going to be also anything like, for example, I remember growing up, the first time somebody poured beer on my hamburger, and I was like, why are you doing that? And he's like, don't worry, you'll find out. And I remember biting into it, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Are there going to be little things that maybe certain items that maybe we have in our refrigerator or in our house, or maybe we can go pick up that we never would thought of putting in our meats or our vegetables that can really turn things around?
For sure. Beer is great. Beer has alcohol in it, and it's really nice and bubbly, and those things will kind of help break proteins down, especially a lot of vinegars. That'll help loosen the meat up. I think there's a lot of good tips and tricks there to get the meat really nice and tender. So beer is a great one. I do beer canned chickens all the time. That beer will boil and the alcohol evaporates from it, but it gives such good moisture and succulence inside of chicken. And then even in marinades, beer marinades are really good. Like I said, it helps break down some of the connective tissue of the meat, so go for it. Absolutely.
And one last thing before we go, too. I know you talked about patience, and we have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the guys who come home and they're like, man, we're hungry, we want food, and maybe they want to make something that's really quick. Is there anything that you can give advice on something like that too?
There's a great cheap cut of meat out there called it's the Korean short rib or a flanken cut, and it's the short rib, and it's sliced really thin. And that is a great meat because not only is it a bang for your buck, it's got great beef flavor. It's got great fat in it, so fat is also flavor, and it keeps the meat moist. And it's one of those cuts that you don't have to worry about is it medium rare. You want it fully cooked. You want it super charred, fully cooked with a good marinade on it, maybe something Asian-y that has a lot of, salt and vinegar and sugar in it, and something that'll help break down the meat. And you can honestly make those Korean short ribs. You can make a pile of them in 10 minutes.
Okay, well, look.
And they're just delicious.
I cannot wait. Look, my mouth is already watering from all this conversation. When is the show on? And, of course, what channel, sir?
It airs tonight at 8 o'clock and I think 5 o'clock out west. Gusto Free Preview is on right now till June 26th. So if you have cable, you have Gusto right now. Check it out. I think it's $3.15 on TELUS. I don't know what it is on Rogers and Bell, but search for it in the guide. You'll get it. It's on Free Preview.
I cannot wait for this long weekend coming up. We've got soccer happening, people out there on the barbecue watching all of this stuff, and they get a chance to watch your show so they can watch the other shows and eat and enjoy. My friend, thank you so much. I am crossing fingers we talk again for another Christmas special. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you know what, Rudy? I'm filming one in 2 days.
Fantastic. Yep. So we get to talk around December for this, too.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
We're going to get another Christmas special.
Love it. Hey,
Awesome.
thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Rudy, thanks for the time.
You
Take
name
care.
it.
Okay,
I've
bye-bye.
got it.